Welcome to the Explainer. Look, if you're a new investor trying to wrap your head around this wild modern financial landscape, you are in the exact right place today. We're diving into something truly revolutionary. We are talking about transforming real-world physical assets into digital tokens so you can build a dynamic modern portfolio. We're going to break down exactly how you take something massive, like a skyscraper, or something entirely unique, like a piece of fine art, and actually turn it into accessible digital shares.
So here is our roadmap for today. We'll quickly cover the evolution of money, define what tokenization actually is, explore fractional ownership, and then we'll look at tangible examples like real estate and art. After that, we'll hit the creator economy, and finally, talk about how you can actually build your own digital portfolio.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the evolution of money, from gold to Web3.
To really grasp where we're headed, we've got to look at where we've been, right? Historically, humanity naturally gravitated toward commodity money, like gold, simply because it was rare. But gold had this fatal flaw. To easily transport and scale it, you had to centralize it in banks. And that centralization, well, that paved the way for the 20th century's government fiat money. And the problem there is that fiat is incredibly prone to massive inflation. Our sources mention this really striking story about Wences Casares growing up in Argentina during the 1980s. The hyperinflation was so intense that his mom literally had to sprint through grocery store aisles, grabbing food before a guy walking right behind her could reprice the items higher. That lived experience just completely exposes the fragility of fiat, which ultimately brings us to 2008, when Satoshi Nakamoto drops Bitcoin, this decentralized peer-to-peer electronic cash, and that completely set the stage for the Web3 token economy we're living in today.
Now, this brings up a massive contrast between these two systems. On one side, you had unsound money, your standard fiat. It's constantly losing purchasing power to inflation, which drives what economists call a high time preference. That basically means people are heavily incentivized to spend their money right now and take on debt because their savings are literally melting away. But on the flip side, we have sound money like Bitcoin and crypto. It's totally decentralized, immune to government meddling, and in Bitcoin's case, has a strictly finite supply of 21 million. That flips the script. It encourages a low time preference, meaning you're actually incentivized to save and invest for the long term, all while being protected from financial oppression. Moving right along to Section 2, what is tokenization? The technology of digital assets. Okay, the absolute crucial piece of this puzzle is that tokenization runs on something called smart contracts. And honestly, the name smart contract is kind of misleading. They aren't these sentient legal documents thinking for themselves. They're actually just conditional transactions written out in code using simple if this, then that logic. So imagine your flight gets canceled, right? If the flight is canceled, and if it was the airline's fault, then the smart contract just automatically refunds your ticket. There's zero middleman, no claims adjuster, no sitting on hold for 3 hours. It literally just executes. Think about it like this. You've got Apple's operating system on one hand. It hosts all those traditional centralized apps in the App Store. Well, a blockchain like Ethereum is very similar, but instead of centralized apps, it hosts decentralized applications. We call them dApps, and the specific crypto tokens that run inside them. Developers write the logic, and the blockchain network just completely secures and executes it. So, when you combine these networks with those smart contracts, you get tokenization. We can literally take almost any physical economic asset in the real world, a commercial building, a barrel of crude oil, a priceless painting, and give it this totally secure, immutable digital identity on the blockchain. And once it's digital, it's programmable, trackable, and tradable with just mind-blowing efficiency. Which brings us to Section 3, fractional ownership and liquidity, opening the markets. I want you to think about a number. 10,000. Imagine a crazy expensive, totally illiquid asset, let's say a multi-million-dollar commercial high-rise. Historically, only the ultra-wealthy or massive institutions could even dream of buying that. But tokenization completely changes the game. That single building can easily be chopped up into 10,000 highly accessible digital shares. Suddenly, you, me, any everyday investor can actually own a fraction of that exact building for just a few $100. And the cost of that, the traditional cap table completely transforms. You could have a primary investor holding 40%, someone else with 30%, a massive group of everyday retail investors collectively holding 20% through these little microtransactions, and hey, maybe the original creator keeps 10%. Everyone simultaneously holds exact, mathematically verifiable percentages of one physical asset, and it is all flawlessly governed by a smart contract.
This literally solves one of the oldest problems in finance: illiquid markets. You know, an illiquid market has a thin order book. There aren't many buyers or sellers. So if you try to move a massive asset, you get these huge, terrifying price swings.
Tokenization fixes this by creating liquid markets. Breaking these assets into fractional tokens suddenly invites this massive global pool of buyers and sellers. You get a thick order book. Value can be traded effortlessly, anywhere in the world, 24/7.
Let's get into some real-world applications in Section 4, Real Estate and Art, Tangible Token Examples.
Smart contracts basically just obliterate traditional friction. Take real estate. The old problems, a huge barrier to entry, and the absolute nightmare of manually collecting rent. The tokenized benefit is clear. Fractional ownership, where smart contracts automatically collect the rent and instantly distribute it proportionally to every single token holder. Or look at fine art. The traditional art world struggles with forgery and the fact that artists get exactly zero royalties when their work is resold for millions of dollars 10 years later. But with tokenization, you get verifiable digital provenance that tracks the artwork's entire history. Plus, the smart contract automatically pings a royalty percentage straight into the artist's digital wallet every single time that piece changes hands. I love this quote from author Sherman Voshmgir in her book, Token Economy. She perfectly captures the magic here. Blockchain acts as a permanent, unforgeable ledger. It completely revolutionizes how we prove who owns what. We're taking trust completely out of the hands of fallible, expensive middlemen and baking it directly into immutable code. But hey, it's not all just skyscrapers and Picassos. Let's hit Section 5, Tokenizing Personal Projects, the Creator Economy. This tech totally empowers everyday, independent creators. You can actually turn your personal community into a shared microeconomy in 3 specific steps. Step 1, you figure out what skill or project you want to tokenize. Step 2, you mint that as a token on a blockchain. And Step 3, you offer those tokens straight to your earliest supporters, giving them unique access or rewards. Picture a photographer doing exactly this. They could issue digital tokens that grant the holders exclusive early access to a new gallery drop, or maybe a private one-on-one editing lesson. By doing this, the creator connects right to their audience. No more centralized funding platforms taking these massive 20% cuts. You share the value you generate directly with your earliest, most loyal fans. It aligns everyone's incentives beautifully. Okay, bringing it all home for you in Section 6, Building a Digital Portfolio, the Investor's Takeaway. Look, if you're going to do this, you absolutely have to do your homework. The crypto space definitely has a history of mass speculation. It's a lot like the famous Dutch tulip mania back in the 1600s, where people were buying up totally useless assets based entirely on the greater idiot theory. Don't be the greater idiot. You got to look past the hype. Ignore what the crowd is doing and steer clear of obvious pump and dump schemes. You want to focus purely on utility. Does this token actually solve a real problem, like adding liquidity to a market or proving provenance? Make sure you understand the smart contract, and seriously, just start small. Buy fractional shares of assets you actually comprehend. The big picture here is that building a digital portfolio gives you unprecedented financial privilege. It rips down the barriers to entry for historically exclusive investments. It lets you operate globally, completely outside the old banking restrictions. You can precisely diversify across fractions of real estate, fine art, and awesome creator projects. And honestly, perhaps the most important point, as Alex Gladstein points out in his work, it acts as a monetary lifeboat. For billions of people trapped in countries with hyperinflating fiat currencies, this is a way out. Which brings us to the very end of our journey today. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought. Just look around your world right now. Think about it. What physical asset in your own life, maybe a specific skill you have, a piece of property, a rare collection, what would you want to tokenize first? The possibilities in this Web3 economy are literally endless once you grasp these fundamentals. Thanks so much for joining this explainer, and happy investing.